Love it. Love it. All right. All right. We're going to learn about lists today. Lists. This is a pretty cool feature. You're going to look at this and say, man, I wish I'd known this a few assignments back. I could have made a list and simplified things. Absolutely. Yes. The more we learn, the more capabilities you have in programming, and easier things will get. Let me go ahead and put this up on the screen so I can show you what we're doing this week. So looking in Buzz at our programming class, if we go to the grade screen to see what's due this week is 4.04. We're about to finish up this module. See, we have our wrap up project next week, but 4.04, I need to check, make sure 4.05. I don't know where that is. It may be something we're skipping, but let's look at 4.04. All right, the lists lesson. This is a pretty cool one. I like the list. So make a list, check it twice. All right. So types of ice cream flavors, top Google searches, animals that are considered endangered, names of Lego sets, presidential candidates, right? These are all lists of values. So we're going to learn how lists can be used to store data and then how to traverse it with a for loop. So organizing your list. Now, here's the important thing in the list. When you make a list in Python, and you want to talk about an actual item in your list, it has an index position. What position is that item in your list, right? Is it the last item in the list? Is it the first item in the list? If it's something you're trying to reference in your list so you can print it or use it for whatever reason, you have to know that Python starts counting with 0. So if there's 5 things in your list, 5 things in your list, Python's going to call them item 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That would be your 5 items. Item 0, item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. Item 4 is the 5th thing on your list. So that's important because if you don't remember that, you'll get frustrated trying to figure out why you're not pulling the item you think you're pulling. But it's only because Python starts counting with 0. So here's a little slider they got just to show you how Python thinks. See right there, there's a list, the non-programming list for the GeekyCon. GeekyCon is coming to your area soon. They made a GeekyCon to-do list, and they named it 1 through 10. But Python would look at this list as 0 through 9. See the same list in Python, it would number it 0 through 9. There's still 10 things on the list, but the list using Python or just making a list on paper. 1 through 10, 0 through 9. They made a little slider for you to play with. You can play with the slider as long as you like. Let's go to the next page and look at some more stuff about lists. All right. Python's list structure allows you to be an organizational genius, or at least a good organizer. So you can add items, delete items, and manipulate items on your list by referencing their index number. And remember, it starts at 0. So let's talk about lists here. So you can give your list a name, like the GeekyCon to-do list. Notice no spaces. It's just a variable. And you can store as many items as you need. You can delete any item. You can add new items. You can replace items with new items, and you can access a reference. So let's look at this. What if you want to make a list of all the things you need to do before the convention? Well, you would make like GeekyCon to-do list equals, and then you have to put this brackets. See, we don't use parentheses. We use the brackets. And then you list all the things separated by commas. Now, since these are string items, you have to put them in quotes. If it was just a list of numbers, you wouldn't need quotes around the numbers. But since these are actual words, you have to put quotes around each item. So here's their GeekyCon to-do list. Get membership online before deadline, book hotel with friends, plan costume, gather costume supplies, sew costume, construct dragon wings, book your travel, download the convention app, pack everything, go to GeekyCon. See, there's their GeekyCon to-do list. All right. So what if you want to make a list of numbers? So a similar fashion, GeekyCon memberships per day list. Numbers, you don't have to put the quotes in. They're not a string value. They're just number values, which Python's totally happy with. So here's a list. Again, you got to put them in brackets and separate them by commas. But you don't need the quotation marks because everything are just integers. What if you don't know what type of list you need, but you know you want to create a list? You can create an empty list. empty list equals, and then just brackets with a space in it and another bracket. And then as your program goes on, you could fill in your list. Maybe people are using an input statement and the input is adding to your list. So you can create a list even if you don't know what you need in it yet. Empty list at equals bracket, space bracket. All right, let's go over here where we can actually see some examples and see more about it. Okay, so now you know how the list works. Let's look at all this information. So does a list have to have a name? Of course, a list has to have a name. Yes, you don't have to have the word list in the name, but that does tend to make it more clear, more meaningful if you use the word list in your name. How do you create a list? Well, we just looked at that. You assign a variable name, like to-do list, an equal sign, then the brackets, and then your items that are in your list. And remember, if you're using string literals, string values, you have to put quotation marks around them. So there's how you would create a list. Now, this is useful. How do you find out how long your list is? You may list a bunch of things, or maybe as users are inputting things into your list, there's a command, this length equals, and this is a variable. You wouldn't have to use the word length. You could call it whatever you want, but LEN to-do list. And this will tell you the length of your to-do list, how many items are in your list. So this will be a useful command to know in Python, the length function. How do you access a specific list item in your list? Okay, right here. So this is a great page when you're trying to write a program with a list. This page will answer a lot of questions for you. So like this is printing number 1, right? Print to-do list, and it print the first item. Now the first item, the number 1 item is not the first item, right? Because 0 would be the first item. So this is actually the second item on there on our list. So let's go back to our to-do list. See, wake up would be item 0. Brush teeth would be number 1. So when we say number 1, that's going to print brush teeth because that's item number 1 in our list. How do you traverse or access the values of a list? All right, let's look at that. Here's a for loop. For in range of 0 to the length of your to-do list. So this will print string in whatever number, like if this is 0, if it starts at 0, 0 is the 0 item in the to-do list. And then the loop will come around again and it'll keep repeating that. And then the next time will be 1 and what's item 1, 2 and item 2. And it'll do that all the way until it gets to the last item, length. And remember, in a for loop, it stops and does not execute the last item because if your length is 5, it won't print 5 in the index 5 item because there's not an index 5 item, right? Because it only counts from 0 to 4. 0 to 4 on there. There is an append command. So to-do list dot append. Oh, this adds things to the end. I'm sorry. Add an item to the end. If you say to-do list append and then add an item, whatever it is, stay in pajamas, which it was pajama days at BHS today for their colored week. To-do list dot append, stay in pajamas. That'll just add an item to your list. It'll add it on to the end. Whatever the last item was, this will become the last item because now you have 6 things in your to-do list instead of 5. And stay in pajamas will be the last one. How do you delete an item? Okay, just DEL, the name of your list, and put it in brackets which item number. So this would be the 3rd thing, right? So since we added stay in pajamas, we went up and deleted item number 2. Item number 2 in our list was get dressed. Get dressed. So we deleted that because we added stay in pajamas to the list. And then how do you change a list item? So here's where we want to get rid of something and put something else in there. To-do list 4. So we're saying whatever the index item 4 is, which is the 5th item in our list, change that to find close. All right. So it will go to number 4, which on our list was, let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 was the one we added, stay in pajamas. So it'll change stay in pajamas to find clothes. All right, so let's look at an example program here. Let's look at the first example they have for us. So this is a list in Python program. Define main. So we've started our program. names equal. So they have a list they call names. That's the name of their list. Because then they have a bracket and put it in quotes. Chewie, Captain Kirk, Hermione, Storm, Buzz. So they've got 5 items in there. And then they have a variable they called length, and they want to know the length of that list. Well, that should show you 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the length of your list. And then the print. At GeekyCon, you have, and then they're going to print how many items there are, the string of length. You have blank characters to find. They are, and then it just said print names. Just print the list. So let's run it and see what it looks like. There it is. At GeekyCon, you have 5 characters to find because that is the length. There's that they are print state. And now just print your list exactly as it's typed. Exactly that. That's what names equals. So it prints Chewie, Captain Kirk, Hermione, Storm, Buzz. Okay, so that is just a very, very simple look at how the lists work. Let's go and look at their next example. Okay, define main, same list, Chewie, Captain Kirk, there's all that. Still, length will still be 5. And now they've set 2 other variables. First equals names 0. So that will be Chewie. The very first item in there is item 0. So it sets first equal to Chewie. Last, and they're going to set that to whatever the length is minus 1. Remember, because the length is 5. There is no item 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would create a problem because there's not an item 5. So they said, whatever the length is minus 1, that will get the last item. So that would be item 4. So then they have a print statement. Print first, and that would be whatever this name is, right? Because that's what that variable is the first character I want to meet. And last will be the last character I meet. And then they end the program. So let's run that. See? So it set Chewie equal to the variable first. So that was what prints when we say print first. Chewie is the first character I want to meet. Buzz will be the last character I meet. So these are in order. First, last. Okay, let's look at another example. See, they did that without a loop. They just picked 2 items from the list and used them in their print statements. Okay, define main. Same list, same length. And this time we're just doing a loop. For in range. So it's a for loop. And they're saying, okay, repeat, starting at 0, repeat this loop until you get to the length. So from 0 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the length. So from 0 to 5, and remember, it stops. When it gets to 5, it does not do the loop. It stops. So it'll do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it will stop the loop. And it says print hello, and then name whatever the value of n is. N starts at 0. So first it'll print hello and the 0 value name, which should be Chewie. Then the loop will repeat. It'll change n to 1 this time, and it will say hello and print the first value name, which is Captain Kirk. And then it will repeat. It'll change it to 2, and it'll keep go till it gets to 5 and end that. So let's run it and look. There it is. That's how they said hello to everyone on the list. They just used this for loop, and they started at 0, which is Chewie, right? That's the 0 item on the list. And they repeated the loop all the way until they got to the length of the list. Hello to each character. All right, let's see. Do we have another one? We do. Okay, define main. Same list. Now what are they doing with this list? Length equals length of the names. So that's going to equal 5. Print the original list. And so then they printed the list, names. Then they just print a blank line. Now they have set up a routine to replace a value in the list. Notice they put the hashtags. This is just a comment to help you understand what they're doing. And they want name 1 to now equal Spock. So they've replaced whatever 1 is with the name Spock. So notice this was 0, this was 1. So they've replaced Captain Kirk with a new value. They take out Captain Kirk and they add Spock. So then they print Spock replaces Captain Kirk. and they print the list again. And then another blank line. Now they're going to append a value. They're going to add a value to the end of the list. So names.append, there's that command. Names is the variable name of their list. Append is the command saying add this to the list. And they add the name Rex. So then it says print, Rex is added to the list, and they print the list again to show you that, and another blank line. Then the last thing they're going to do is delete a value list. Delete whatever's in the number 4 position. So number 4 position, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to delete Buzz because that's in the number 4 position. So they delete that, and then they show Buzz is deleted and print the list again. So let's run this program and see each of this. We should print the list. All right, the original list, print that. Replace Captain Kirk with the name Spock and print that. Add Rex to the end of the list and print that. And then delete Buzz from the list and print that. So let's see these all come out here. All right, so here it is. The original list. Chewie, Captain Kirk, Hermione, Storm, Buzz. We saw that. Then it said Spock replaces Captain Kirk. And notice in our list, sure enough, Captain Kirk is gone and Spock is now in its place from that command right there. Names 1 equals Spock. So whatever number 1 is now deleted and it's replaced with this new value, Spock. Okay, so now Rex is added to the list, and that was the append value, names.append Rex. It just means add Rex in. So notice there's 6 things now because we added 1, Chewie, Spock, Hermione, Storm, Buzz, and add Rex. And the last thing we do is we delete whatever's in the 4 value, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's Buzz. And so after we run that command, now Buzz is deleted. It's Chewie, Spock, Hermione, Storm, Rex. All right, so these are nice examples of exactly how those different commands work. The delete command, the append command, how to replace something on your list, and as well as just creating the list and using the link. So let's look at their last example. All right, define main. Here's our list. This is our new list that we created last time. Chewie, Spock, Hermione, Storm, Rex. And it says photos. So we've created a second list. This is a list also because it's got the brackets. And this is a list of numbers, 45, 12, 33, 24, 106. And we're going to set the total equal to 0 to start. Okay. All right. So now we're using a loop. For in range. So again, we're making a loop that starts at 0 and goes the length of the list. And it's going to print. First, it prints names 0. So whatever the 0 item is in the list name, so that should be Chewie, right? Took, and then they're printing whatever the in value, which is 0, the 0 in the photos list. So they're using both lists at the same time. First, we're going to take Chewie and put it here. And then since this is a number, we got to add the string, treat it like a string value so you can print it. Print 45 photos. And then add those photos to our total. Our total started at 0, but every time it goes through the loop, it's going to add to the total whatever this number is in our photos list because it's using the photos list. So whatever's in the photos list, each time we're adding that to the total. So whatever the total was, add this value of photos, which is 45 the first time through because it's 0, the 0 value. Add it through, and it'll keep looping and it'll keep adding each one individually to the totals. And at the end, it's going to say the total photos taken is print that total. And that's the end of the program. All right, so let's run this and see what it looks like. So notice every time it goes through the loop, first it starts with 0, so it prints the 0 index item, Chewie, and the index number from the list of photos. Chewie took 45 photos. Then the loop adds that 45 to this total. So now the total is not 0 anymore, it's 45. And it goes back and repeats the loop because we have not made it to the length of the list yet. So now it's a 1. N becomes a 1. And so index number 1 is Spock and 12. So that's what it prints, Spock and 12. Spock took 12 photos. Then it goes through as a 2. Hermione took 33 photos. Then it goes through as a 3. Her Storm took 24. Then it goes through as a 4. And then finally at the end, it goes total photos taken, and it adds all 5 of those values up because it did that in the loop. Total equals total plus photos. And we end up at 220. Now it says try changing the values in the photos list. Okay. Let's say you really like Hermione, so you take 330 photos with Hermione. So when we run it again, 330 photos, and now it's a total of 517. Notice it added the 330 this time instead of the 33. All right, so maybe you don't care for Chewie, so you only took 1 photo. Took 1 photos, and because we have that as a plural in our print statement. So 2 took 1, Spock 12, 330, 24, 106 of Rex. Love the dinosaur, right? The Rex the dinosaur. So we took 1,056 photos of Rex. All right. So that is all the examples that they have. So the last thing it has is the assignment. So here's the rubric on how you're graded. Remember, they always put the rubric in here when you write something. Up to 10 points for the program design. It contains all these elements. 40 points for the program content, which includes the pseudocode that your program reflects what your pseudocode said it was going to be. The main function. You got to use a list. You have to create a list to store at least 5 favorites. And then the message is displayed if the input matches not on the list. 30 points for your program actually working, the performance, that it runs correctly with no errors and does what it's supposed to do. And then 20 points for them post-mortem review questions. So let's look at the template for this. I've already got it in our Google Classroom. Do this week in Buzz with template. Here's the template. So when we open up the template, here's where you put your program after you test it in Python. Again, it has those same instructions right here. Here's where you put your pseudocode. All right. And then you write your program. Make sure you use comments to have your name, today's date, short description, indent things properly, use meaningful names for your variables. This is an example of someone's program that they wrote. What is your favorite Star Wars character? Cool. We both like Chewbacca. And then it lists their 5 top. So they created a list, obviously. They had this in there. And this was just an input statement where they asked them about the Star Wars character, and they just typed whatever they want, which apparently they input the name Chewbacca. So it printed, cool, we both like Chewbacca. And then they used their list to print their top 5 favorites. Chewbacca, Yoda, Rey, R2-D2, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So here's where you paste your program when you're through writing it. Start to copy your code. Sometimes when you copy and paste, it messes up the spacing. So look at this and make sure your spacing is correct. And then here's those questions you answer at the end that's worth 20 points. What was the purpose? How could it be useful? What's the problem you ran into? How'd you fix it? Describe something you might do differently now that you've written it. All right, so that template is already there. So you can get that out of Google Classroom. When you get that done, you'll turn that in Buzz for the assignment. But there's the same assignment template right there. I've just got it in Google Classroom for you. And then, of course, you go to here and you'll submit it. You'll attach that Google document and submit your work there. So, all right. Questions on lists. Okay. Well, if you don't have any questions on that, I will let you guys go. Kendra, hang around. Let me get you set up, and we'll talk about the class here. So Kendra's just joined us. So, all right.